Alright, hello, welcome everybody. We're going to be doing Magsorc on the Murkmire PTS. Gonna go over some of the changes. Uh, we'll start off with the character sheet. High Elf. This is my live character ported over to the PTS. So this is the same characters I have on live, just ported to the PTS. So all this is the same as I run on live. CP changed a little bit. I won't cover that because it's not what I intend for this video. Crystal Frag got a change that you can now block cast this. It got its cast time its hidden cast time taken away for the proc. So you can bar swap animation cancel this. You can cast abilities sooner after casting this. So it's a good change for that. It was needed. And there's also an indicator now. It turns the visual indicator it turns pink on the tooltip on your bar when it's ready to proc. Rune Cage got a visual indicator put on it that's absolutely terrible and allows for basically easy counterplay to the ability. I don't necessarily agree with it, but it is what it is. Dark Conversions. This ability is on the right path to making it usable to us in PvE content. It still has a cast time, so it's undesirable to use. But it does give a fairly decent return for sustain wise. It's not the best, but it's a step in the right direction, I feel, for PvE Magsorc. If they would reduce the cost of it, maybe tone back the heal it gives and give a little bit more resources back, it would help us out tremendously in sustain department. And that's really good. It's a step in the right direction. The pets, they got their special ability cost reduction. It's a step in the right direction. May not be enough to sustain a light attack rotation effectively on a Magsorc with pets. Pets are still stupid. They still die though. You still have to resummon them, and they still trigger mechanics they're not supposed to. So they're still not incredibly viable in my opinion in PvE content. I mean, they are for like dungeons and stuff, and there's specific uses for them in trials and whatnot. But they still provide more headache than they're worth. In my personal opinion, I don't like pets. If you're a pet sorc, you can argue with me, and we'll come to the conclusion that your opinion is different than mine, and I still won't use a pet. Daedric Prey got a cost reduction too. So just to help out with sustain on pet sorcs, which they needed. Bound Aegis got buffed. Your block mitigation goes up. Now for a tank that might not be as useful. I don't know if they use it or not. I'm not a sorc tank. I don't choose to put myself through that. I have a DK for tanking. But the increase in block mitigation helps us over a lot. It helps us because of other circumstances, which is wards that I'll go over later. Overload, energy overload is what I'm using right now. Overload can now is a toggle ability that you can weave in regular light attacks with just into your rotation. So you use your overload in your regular rotation now. They got rid of the third bar. Should they have done that? Yes, I think they should have done it for how they want the ability to work as it is now. how this ability works, you toggle it. You toggle it on, you can bar swap, you still are able to use it. You can use elemental weapon with it and still get all the damage procs. So you can weave elemental weapon with it. You cannot weave crushing weapon with it, as it is for a Magsorc, but that's not for a Magsorc. So as you can see, you get the elemental weapon proc, you get the overload attack, you get the weapon proc, your weapon enchant proc off of it, and you get the status effect from elemental weapon, whether it's chilled, burning, minor vulnerability, whatever. You get that off with it, so you can still use your full elemental weapon value of it with it. So that's great. I love the fact that you can weave overload in with your standard kit now. I think it's a really good change. Is it balanced at the moment? Yes and no. Just like everything else. You can't gain ultimate while you have the ability toggled on, which I think is good and bad. I would prefer that you could still be able to generate ultimate when you have it toggled on. It would make it more useful throughout the fight then, and it would just make the ability a little bit better than it is. I mean, it's still really good. I mean, I won't. Why did I say that? I won't say that I'm the best Magsorc in the world. I'm not the best DPS in the world. I'm fairly good with it. But the reason I like it is right here. The Minor Magic of Steel. That's our elemental drain. It provides 250 resources per second to us. Energy Overload provides, over the length of the 6 million parse, it provides 248 regen per second. So that's almost the equivalent of Minor Magic of Steel. A huge resource gain for us in sustain matters. And as you can see, I got 48k with this parse. Light attacks. I mean, this was an RNG parse. It is more than average. For me personally, other people can get more with it. I know that they can, because like I said, I'm not the end all be all of a Sorc DPS in the game. My mechanics aren't high enough for that. I am fairly good. If I want to toot my own horn, toot. But I am fairly good. I'm not the best. Other people out DPS me. I'm not saying I'm the best. This part was Berserker. The Berserker weapon enchant now procs off blockade, so it's virtually up 100% of the time. But that's not Magsorc changes. But yeah, this is an incredible tool to help with sustain. Are you giving up stuff to use it? Yes, you are giving up the atro to use it. Most of the time. Like if you start a fight with 500 ultimate, you can use overload, get your ultimate down to let's say 200, and then you can drop your atro and just use up the rest of your ultimate. And you can do it that way if you atro the front bar. But and in order to use atro front bar, you'll have to use force pulse and other things. But you still have access to your other ultimates while you're using overload, because when you bar swap, you can still drop your ultimate ability on the other bar while it's toggled on. So you still have access to the other ones. I think it's great for sustain. I would like to see the damage buff. It buffed on the damage a little bit in a PvP aspect, or not a PvP aspect, in a PvE aspect. I would like to see the damage up a little bit, but it's not necessarily there just for the damage. It's there for the regen too. I can do 6 million parse now with no recovery glyphs, no, absorb magic on the back bar, and still do fairly good damage, and only have to heavy attack once in a parse. And if you use this ability, it brings your sustain more in line with Nightblades. Should I have to use an ultimate ability to get sustain and do a moderate amount of extra damage in order to be on the same sustain level as a Nightblade? Probably not. It probably shouldn't be that I have to use my ultimate, weaving in light attacks in my standard rotation like this to have the same sustain level as a class that has it inherently built into their kit in a standard ability with siphoning strikes. That seems like an imbalance to me, but that's just my opinion. It's still strong. It still does really good damage. I'll scroll through some of the fights here. Like this one, it's just an average one that I was using. I didn't start the fight off using Overload. I started the fight off with like 280 ultimate. I just used it as a resource tool throughout the fight, and it was 45k. I mean, I do that on live right now, and with the imperfected version of Sororia and Burning Spellweave. So it's not the best damage ultimate in the game. I mean, if you add these up, 70 or 7,780 from light attacks, and then from Overload it's 4,000. So you add your 3,000 to that, and that's 10,700, which is right where your light attacks are at the moment for in your DPS scale. So you're losing a little bit of DPS to use this ability on this parse, but you're gaining a vast amount of regen in order to do it. Now if we go to this parse, like the one I showed earlier, it's almost 6,000 DPS. I had a full bar of ultimate when I started the fight. I only used Energy Overload as my ultimate. I started the fight off with it. I had better RNG on this one. So as you can see with that, I mean, that's a lot of DPS coming from Energy Overload and light attacks. So we add them up. We'll just do 5,900 and 7,700, just to give round average numbers. That's 13,600 DPS from those two, which is your light attacks. Good light attacks for me personally. I know other people do more or less depending. Is a really good one is 1,100. So you got 2,600 damage from Overload in this case. So it's a little underpowered in damage. I would like more damage to come from it to make it. It has to have a lot more damage coming from it to make it equivalent to the Storm Atro, which is buffing one of your Stam DPS that are doing ridiculously high numbers and buffing them by 25% more for 8 seconds. Like the Atro is really good. What's this one? Oh, that's a different character. But yeah, Overload is a really good sustain tool. It needs to be buffed in damage, but it's a step in the right direction. In my opinion, this is just me. I like Energy Overload. I know there's a lot of people out there that hate this this change to it. They liked the third bar. They liked having access to the extra skills and everything else. I like it, but that's me. And that brings us back to Empowered Ward, or wards in general. Both our class-specific ward and the light armor harness Magicka and its morphs, dampen ward harness, both all of them got a 1 second cast time added to them. And a 1 second cast time is absolutely horrible. It sucks. Can you work around it? Yes. In PvE, yes, you can work around the 1 second cast time. You can still do the content in the game with a 1 second cast time in your shield. You have to be more proactive in your positioning. You have to be more proactive in casting your ward. It can't be reactive gameplay. It has to be proactive gameplay. It will hurt your DPS to use it. Yes, it's a 1 second cast time where you're doing nothing besides sitting there and squatting. I say that because this is the animation. It looks like it probably isn't the best animation in the world. Kind of looks like you're, taking a squat. And the problem with this is you can't block cast it anymore. Your block drops when you cast it, and if you have to block while you're doing it, it cancels the cast, obviously. Granted, wards are now affected by resistances, so both, Harness Magicka, all shields in the game are affected by resistances. So the wards themselves got a buff because of, an extra, like for instance, a sorcerer with Boundless Storm and Bound Aegis on their bar has, for me, I have 16,000 physical resistance. That's something like 23, 25% mitigation value added to your shield. So it says, 14,000 on your shield, but in reality it's, more. Well, we'll do the quick math here on my handy calculator. So let's see the value of the shield. The shield value is 15k tooltip. Alright, so we got 15,182 times 1.23 for the resistance value of 23%. Now, if it's more, if it's less, so this is just a ballpark number. So that brings the shield actual resistance or mitigation value up to, 18,600, almost a 19k shield. You just got to be able to use it, which is the cast time. So, are they usable in PvE? In a lot of PvE, yes, they're still usable. I've done Maelstrom on this character, and it was harder because I normally run with the shield on live. But for those folks that don't run shields on live, you can still get 600k in Maelstrom by knowing the fight. So that's game knowledge. It's straight game knowledge. So our game knowledge is going to have to improve to be proactive in our mechanics. But also we'll have to just slot a couple different abilities. Like we're probably going to have to use our resistance buffs now to get the extra mitigation value in shields. To use the full percent of them. And we might actually have to use Bound Aegis, the active ability on it, for preempting. Like you see the mechanic coming at you. I don't have time to shield. I wasn't prepared for it. I have Bound Aegis up though, and I have Surge up. So I'm sitting here in combat. If it crit, you get healed every time it crits. So, and we have our dots ticking, on the target. So we're getting healed from that, and we have to block, and we pop Bound Aegis, and we have the Sigix shield that is still here, and it's available to us every 10 seconds for different mechanics. Now this shield isn't much. It's something. It's a no shit shield for when you're blocking to help you get through the damage. But you have 36% extra mitigation for a couple seconds through this, for 3 seconds. So if you see the projectile coming at you, you can pop that. You can block it, and you're good. If the boss turns around, you can block. you're probably not gonna survive through it because it's a boss and it's probably gonna one-shot you anyway. But it would anyway. I mean, unless your reaction time of a ninja, I mean, you're still gonna get one-shot by a boss if it turns. But for general mechanics that you shield and block through, you can still shield and block through it. You just have to use different aspects of your kit to do it. So you got your your Citric Order shield is something like 5.5k. Let's look at it. Your Citric Order shield is, yeah, 5.5k. Adding for, resistances, it's a little bit more, not terribly much. I mean, it's a 6,000, almost 7,000 shield, which is enough for you to live through a lot of stuff. I mean, you add it to your effective health pool because at this point it really is effective health because it's affected by shields. Now it isn't affected by block, but block is added to it afterwards. So it's almost as good as just having extra health that the Citric Order shield. It's great. Plus, if you have CP into whatever that shield passive is that pops up every once in a while, you get a little extra. But, a 7k shield adds effective health to us. And, that puts us up to like 23k effective health. And you add your block to it. I mean, plus your bound Aegis. I mean, you'll still be able to survive mechanics as long as your healers are proactive in healing. Like, the emphasis has been taken off, oh, I can shield through this mechanic and I'll be fine. The emphasis has been put onto the healers need to do their job to get the rest of the team through the mechanics. And I like that, and I hate that at the same time, because that means I have to rely on somebody else, but it means everybody needs to be doing, exactly what they need to be doing in order to get through the mechanic. So, proactive with our shields, preemptively casting, like in Hellrot Top boss, it's going to be an issue, but everybody's going to have to play better in order to overcome it, which I like. I like that they're promoting that people need to play better, smarter, better positioning, better mechanics, because honestly, a lot of the content's a joke right now, and this will. I mean, a lot of the content will still be a joke, and you'll still be able to not use a healer on the vast majority of the dungeons in the game, but it promotes better gameplay, I think. Does the shield change suck? Yes, I fucking hate casting a shield. It's horrible. I do not want to have to cast a shield. Is there ways to work around it? Yes. Do I want to use those ways to work around it? If the shield change goes through, we'll have to. I mean, there's no other way around it. For PvE, it's still workable. PvP is a whole nother monster. There's far better PvPers out there than me. I play a Mag DK in heavy armor in PvP because I don't want to deal with shields. I didn't like the gameplay before. I don't think that avenue is going to be open to us as a Sorc, but who knows? People are resourceful, and I think they'll find a workable build for it. If they don't, well, then the class is dead in PvP and rip Sorcs. But that's neither here nor there, because I'm a PvE guy. I think I covered all the changes pertaining to Magsorc in this video. There's some good stuff, there's some bad stuff, there's a lot of stuff that's a step in the right direction. It just needs a little bit of tweaking, and hopefully through this PTS cycle it'll get tweaked. Like I said, I'm not a fan of the shield changes. I do not want to cast a 1 second cast time on a shield. Does it promote better gameplay? Yes, it does promote better gameplay because you have to learn the mechanics better in order to actually do the content. Is it necessary? Necessary? Probably not. You probably could have just nerfed shields. And in PvE, if that was their reasoning for it, I mean, they probably could have just nerfed shields and been done with it. Uh, but I think it's not all doom and gloom for PvE Magsorcs. I mean, Nightblade's got a huge sustain hit. They're still doing very good DPS, but their sustain isn't otherworldly now. It's just okay. Well, it's still good. It's still great. I mean, it's still, their sustain is still as good as what I do with Overload, and I have to use an ultimate ability for it. But again, this is for Magsorcs. I think we're progressing down a good path, or a path that could either take a left turn into just total Crapsville, or it could take a right turn into where we're completely viable in PvE. You're still completely viable in PvE. You just have to, know the mechanics. It promotes frustration. The shield change promotes frustration at lower end players, at newer players, and it's not a good tool for them to progress through the content right now. But again, it also forces them to be better players. So I'm torn with it. On one hand, I don't think it should be a cast time. On the other hand, it promotes better gameplay. I would like to see a middle ground that doesn't involve, a cast time. Because I hate cast times in this game. Cast times make for dull gameplay, in my opinion. And, yeah, I mean, most people know cast times suck. So, this is just my overview of the Sorc changes. You can agree with me, disagree with me, don't care. This is just my opinion on it. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And, yeah, it'll be interesting in the weeks to come. See y'all later.